Hot topic here on Friday morning, February 21st. After a couple busy weeks in American soccer news, an NASL lawsuit, USL's Division One announcement, we wanted to check in on the state of the American soccer pyramid. And to help us dig into this, brought on serial soccer club starter and occasional wedding officiant, a man responsible for starting up to 15 American clubs, Peter Wilt. Welcome to Morning Kickaround, sir.
Thank you, gents. It's great to be on the show. And I do want to get my own nomination in for the Rooster soccer pun.
Okay.
A take on True Grit. Rooster soccer burn.
Okay. All right.
Does that's a good one. Does that beat out Peck Shea, though?
No, nothing beats out Peck Shea.
I mean, come on. That's good. Now, I will point. What's funny about this is that, all right, people maybe don't know. Anyway, Peter Wilt is here. Peter, so good to see you again. It's been a long time since you and I have had a chance to chat. The end of my old radio show has made it tougher to find ways to talk to Peter Wilt about American soccer, and that makes me sad. So first of all, so good to see you. I hope things are well.
All is really well. It's great to talk to you again.
All right,
and
so
thank you for sporting the Forward Madison, the drip kit.
I'm making it a habit when we have guests to try to reference some of their background, some of what they're doing. Yeah, I don't have a shirt for every situation, but I do have a couple of Forward Madison shirts. I got to get my hands on. I do have a Fire shirt. I got to get my hands on a Indy 11 shirt. I don't have one of those. I mean, you're wearing Chicago House gear. I should.
Stars.
Yeah,
they're not the Red Stars anymore.
Oh, that's right. They're the Stars. Oh, quickly.
How are those new kits looking?
Can we get a Peter Wilt comment on the end of the Red Stars name?
It's awful. It's chicken. It's unbelievable. It's like Chicago Fire changed their logo to the crown yellow disaster, and then the Red Stars are sitting there saying, "Hold my beer."
Indeed.
They changed it to a classic. The brand connected with the community. The Red Stars literally on the city of Chicago flag. And they change it to Stars, which is about as generic a soccer name as it might as well be a rec team, a U10 team in Naperville or something. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, there are ways to sort of own the generic name after time. And if you make it, like, for example, we highlighted Richmond and the Richmond Kickers with Elliot Barr this week. And Kickers is not some incredibly creative name around soccer, and yet there is one of those. It's the Richmond Kickers, and it's theirs, and they own that. And I feel like, Stars, maybe if you had done that 30 years ago, but that's not how it works. And now the rebrand ends the unique nature of that. I would figure not. All right, so Peter, part of the reason to bring Peter on is obviously it's an interesting moment in American soccer, but he and I had a little back and forth around the NASL lawsuit over on Blue Sky. And without sort of diving into the minutia of the lawsuit, Peter, tell us what you had hoped would come out of the NASL lawsuit and maybe, as we sit, what it looks like it might or might not have done.
A big part for me was find a way to leverage a change in the pro league standards. And I know from what Steve Bank was saying that it wasn't on the table anymore after some things changed in the process. But even just the threat of having the pro league standards resulting in future litigation leading to a new examination of it. I think we need to make ownership opportunities in the United States more disparate. We need to have it similar to the rest of the world, where you can have all sorts of types of ownership. You can have a bunch of kind of rich people. You can have a nonprofit organization. You can have thousands of passionate people that put a little bit of money in, or you can have one high net worth guy. As long as it's a structure that allows for success, and some of it is trial by error. And frankly, the system they've had with pro league standards in America has been all error. Right? Since 1992, when they instituted pro league standards in America, you know how many teams have been sanctioned as professional? Take a guess.
what's the number?
268. Okay.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
how many remain that have not folded?
Not
70.
268. Okay.
70. So
Right.
100, and if my math is good, 170 or so have folded. Or one, yeah.
No, if it's 268 and there are 70 left, then that's 198 that
That's
are
it.
that are
Thank you.
that
That's
are
enough. You're
dead.
better at math than
Yeah.
I am. So
Yeah.
190. So what they have in place hasn't necessarily worked, at least not by itself. So restricting who can get in doesn't make sense. And then you have the issues like waivers. Well, waivers were granted to MLS through this whole time. Obviously, Phil Anschutz owning 6 teams, Lamar Hunt owning 3, Bob Kraft owning a couple. You needed waivers for that, and it was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Or you had the stadium in Columbus, the horseshoe. Well, that sure didn't meet the standards. It was like 20 yards wide. Okay, a bit facetious. So waivers were no problem. I think MLS was looking for something like 8 waivers the year after U.S. Soccer refused to give NASL 2 waivers. And so there obviously was stuff going on. And then some of the information that's come out, shows that there was some collusion and connection between U.S. Soccer and MLS to make NASL go away. So it's disturbing. But as far as to answer your question, what I hope changes is that there are more ways for different types of owners to get involved in the sport in this country.
Okay, so let me come all the way back to sort of the beginning of this. First of all, just as a simple statement, should there be any professional league standards dictated by U.S. Soccer?
Sure. Yes. I think they should be involved in it. But I think that the leagues themselves should have a great say in terms of what risk they're willing to take, because it's the league that's going to survive or not survive based on the quality of ownership they bring in.
I'm certainly sympathetic to the idea of why even bother with this when you've got 198 clubs that have died. What's the point of having standards to say we're trying to make sure clubs survive or are stable, and then clearly doesn't matter, it's not working. So when you and I had our interaction, the largest part of this for you is the community club model. And we have seen that pop up in a couple of places. Obviously, famously, American sports fans will know the Packers are community owned in a way. So, is that what do you think that will do initially for the sport in America? How do we
I think we're seeing it in the lower tiers. In pre-professional, what Minnesota Aurora is doing, what Detroit City did as an amateur team, what Chattanooga has done, San Francisco City. There's some great examples out there of true community-owned teams. And they've had when they go pro, like Detroit City, they've kind of had to fake it to make it. But the real beauty of those teams is that they're community-owned. But also nonprofit organizations. Mexico's got a number of university-owned teams. And they seem to be doing well. And university isn't the only way to do a nonprofit that supports a pro team. So I just think there's different ways to do it. The Bundesliga, the stereotypical response to this is, Barcelona would not be allowed to operate under U.S. Soccer Pro League standards, or most of the Bundesliga.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of a middle ground where you're providing some guidelines and some like a little bit of framework and having a bar to meet. But when those standards and requirements are more restrictive than safety oriented, it kind of gives you some pause and maybe encourages there probably is some room for some either mass waivers or some revisions in those guidelines.
Right. And I think if you have representatives of all the leagues that are affected by it involved in the decision making for U.S. Soccer, you'll get to a better set of standards. Whereas in the past, we've essentially had MLS dictating what those standards are.
Right. I mean, and look, and I'm not trying to make apologies here for collusion, certainly, but I do think that obviously one of the thoughts is, and whatever, the relationships are part of the story, but one of the ideas is we need a league to make it, and a sort of glamorous first division league to make it, to sort of pull everybody along. Now, you don't have to buy into that theory, but that may be part of what we're thinking of here. And I guess, Peter, as someone who has obviously been involved in Major League Soccer from the beginning or near the beginning, certainly you understand what it's like to start a league in this country, to start clubs in this country. Is it just sort of okay? Should we just sort of accept the idea of a Wild West league rich country? Because what I keep talking about is, in a lot of places there's sort of a cultural current that pulls everybody along and kind of keeps everybody within the banks of this flow. We don't really have that here, and you can start a league if you want to, and obviously the PLS apply. But as we're about to talk about with USL, if you can meet them, doesn't matter. U.S. Soccer can't tell you not to operate. There's no cultural pressure to not rock the boat, which, again, I get some people think we need to do more of.
Yeah, if there was a true open system, I'd be more comfortable with a single determined, this is the way it must be. But the fact is, it's a closed system. And so the opportunity for anyone to start a club and work their way up through meritocracy doesn't really exist in this country. I think what USL is doing is a step in the right direction. I think it has a key flaw in it, but I applaud USL for the announcement last week.
What would
Are you going to tell us what the key flaw?
What's the flaw?
Well, the flaw, I find it fascinating, and not that I spend my life on social media, though some people probably think I do. I've read through and listened to a number of your kick arounds. I think it's great discussion. I think there's some great feedback coming in here, but maybe I'm missing it. But I have not seen anyone that's looked at the USL announcement and the USL vision and said, wait a minute, they're still not addressing territorial exclusivity. Right?
Okay.
They're still selling monopolies
Yeah.
and allowing one team per market. And that's not a true open system. I mean, the beauty of the sport in the rest of the world is that you derive the competition by having multiple teams in the same market.
This is interesting, right? Because I do think that you kind of get boxed in thinking as an American in the way the game has always operated, and you forget that, this is a little bit of bread and circus kind of stuff to me, that this is like, oh, we're going to start a first division league and we're going to put at the top of a pyramid and we'll have promotion and relegation, and people get buzzy about promotion and relegation. But as you said, Peter, it's not open. You still have to buy a franchise within the USL system. But this again comes back to my issue of we're a country of leagues. We're not a country of clubs.
Yeah, it's a huge country, and that helps or hurts, I suppose, but it provides the opportunity for multiple leagues existing. I mean, the fact that women's soccer has 2 first division leagues, pro leagues, no second division, no third division, and 3 national pre-professional leagues is remarkable. And I suppose maybe it's just a sign of where we are in the evolution of women's soccer, and time will fill those gaps. But it shows that the country is big enough to support 2 different first division leagues. So as long as they have different concepts, an open system and a closed system, I think the marketplace will show there is room for those 2. And I heard your discussion the other day about competing leagues in American sports history, AFL, NFL, WHA, NHL. In all those cases, the mergers were not truly mergers. They were acquisitions.
Right.
And I, there's some thought that that's how this could go down. It is more difficult for an open system league and a closed system league to have a merger because you have to have a compromise of values. And it's not like the business models are the same. They're different business models. I mean, USL is essentially owned privately by a couple of folks. And to have that as a merger is not likely. If it would happen, it would more than likely be an acquisition.
I mean, yeah, there's so many complicating factors to the business part of this. And I'm not, going to say I'm an expert here, but as you said, USL, which is an organizing structure, right? They'll sell franchise rights, and those people that own the clubs in a way that MLS owners don't own their clubs exactly on paper. But as like obviously putting those jigsaw puzzle pieces just don't fit together. So I guess one thing I without making it kind of dreary and sad, even as we kind of get some exciting news and people want to be excited about it, Peter, is there a reason to think that something like what the USL is doing is a step in the right direction towards one day getting the open system you want?
Absolutely. In Pro Rel is a big part of an open system. I don't mean to diminish it by talking about open territories. I think promotion relegation gives meaning to every game, and it incentivizes teams to be better, and it rewards success, and it penalizes incompetency, and that's a huge part of an open system. There's obviously other elements, training compensation, solidarity payments, and it starts to look more like the rest of the world. At a time when, frankly, the rest of the world, some of it is trying to look like a closed system, Mexico. And I'm obviously a huge advocate for the open system. And so I hope it either wins out or at least it gets a platform for the public to embrace.
We've only got you for a couple more minutes here, so I want to sneak this in. How do you think the NASL lawsuit decision painted, or do you think it connected in any way to this USL Division I announcement? Are those connected in any way, do you think?
My instinct is yes, it did. It was connected. They waited for the announcement to see what the landscape was going to look like. I assume there may have been a thought process of let's let U.S. soccer attack one issue at a time and not convolute the two issues. And maybe if the decision would have gone a different way, that may have impacted how or when they would have made this announcement. But I'm probably not the best person to ask that question. I mean, I'm sure it was more than coincidence that the timing happened when it did.
Yeah. All right. Peter, again, incredible to have you back on the show, or anything I'm doing. I do appreciate your time. Is there anything you want to tell people about what you're doing right now?
Sure. I've got part ownership in 5 lower tier teams. I'm working with Michael Hitchcock, Chris Knowlton, and Evan Nadaner on wearing the scarf of Iron Rose FC. Iron Rose FC is outside Sacramento in Roseville, California. We're working with the Roseville Soccer Club. It's a giant of a youth program with 4,000 members. We led the country in attendance for pre-professional women's soccer last year with 2,000 fans a game. We were undefeated. We're launching our men's team this year, Iron Rose FC, in League for Clubs. League for Clubs is going to be a great story going forward. It has the opportunity to be the open system league we all want. They will be affiliating with semi-pro regional leagues that will give it a critical mass of teams and a pyramid in the semi-pro sphere. And then hopefully someday enough of those teams will start third division pro teams, right? And then you have the pyramid going from third division pro down, and then maybe you get a second division, then you get a first division, and then that's the pyramid that has an open system, that has no territorial exclusivity, and it has promotion relegation. Dennis Crowley, Kingston Stockade, Eric Housley at Napa Valley, Sonny D'Alessandro at Tulsa. There's some really good ownership in that league. It's up to about 40, 45 teams already in their first year. Proud to work with them. And Chicago House is doing great things. We've added a women's team in WPSL. We have U23 teams, men and women. We have youth programming across the board. We have a team in Westfield outside London that is part of our family. So doing a lot of things, fun things, lower tier soccer, grassroots soccer, community soccer, I believe is where some of the best soccer development is right now in America. And thanks, guys, for having me on. I'm really grateful.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you so much, Peter. Always in the mix with soccer teams here in the United States. Thank you so much for shedding light and discussing the current state of the American soccer pyramid. It is a unique moment right now. And go check out the interview we did with Dennis Crowley talking about the League of Clubs. Peter mentioned their fascinating new take on that pre-professional stage in the American soccer landscape. If you haven't done so already, click the subscribe button. We are on the march to 1,000. We might even be there by the end of this program, Jason. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Follow us on social media at mkickaround, or write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com, or one-time donation, or maybe schedule something a little bit more regular. Ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. We would, be over the moon if you were able to send anything our way, and taking steps towards